Hi, and welcome back to
Inspired to Game. I'm Sean.
And I am Lola. Today we are talking about 2 expansions for Robo Rally by Renegade Games. Specifically, we're talking about Wet and Wild and Chaos and Carnage. We want to thank them for sending us a copy of the 2 expansions to review. Each is 3 maps with 2 sides, and it also comes with 5 additional cards. Now, we aren't going to do an overview of the full game of Robo Rally because we have done that already, and we will link to it up there. So if you are unfamiliar with the game, please go and check it out and check out our full overview to get an idea of how it plays as well as the review. We were excited about the idea of the expansions because we had so much fun with the base game. This game makes me feel like a kid again. It is so much fun, but at the same time, it can be a real brain burner too.
So the Chaos and Carnage expansion introduces teleporters, randomizers, and crushers, where the Wet and Wild expansion introduces us to ramps and ledges, water, of course, and crushers again.
So most of these are pretty self-explanatory. So the teleporters teleport you. Basically, if you're standing on a teleporter, if you're rotating, you're fine, you don't move. But if you use a movement card, whether it's a move back, a 1, 2, or 3, you are teleported forward by that amount plus 2. So if it's a move back, that's essentially treated like a 0, and you move 2 forward. If you place a 1, you're moved 3, and all the way up to 5 if you're placing a move 3. So they give you a huge advantage to be able to move large areas at a time. And what's nice is you are not affected by anything between you and your landing point. So you can even teleport through walls, past pits, or anything like that. So they're really super useful.
But remember, if you are moving from a teleporter space, you are going to go those extra 2 spaces. So you can't leave a teleporter space and go to the one right next to it.
Now the crushers will crush you if you are sitting on them during that particular register, which means you'll just have to return your robot and then we'll have to reboot for the next turn with some damage. Randomizers do just that. They'll randomize your next set of cards in your register. Water will slow down your movement. And there are also some currents in the water that can help you with your movement, but also be careful of vortices as well that often will lead down into a pit, essentially.
Yeah, they might wash you down the drain.
Yeah. And there's different levels. The ledges and the ramps mean that you can go down floors. Now you can use a ramp and go down a floor without harm, or you can fall down a ledge and take some damage and get to your destination faster. So on top of new mechanisms, these expansions also introduce some additional new boards, and some of them are very exciting. So these expansions provide a lot of variability of play and make things really interesting. And one thing I didn't expect on playing them, because we played this game with a large group and we played it 2-player, and previously I found that I enjoyed it with a large group more because there was much more going on around the table and much more likely to have interactions and people pushing and throwing you off your register. In a 2-player game, that didn't happen to us a lot because we played pretty friendly and we don't overtly go to just mess each other up. So because of that, some of the games weren't as interesting as they could be. Now, however, with these expansions, some of your moves that you need to do are tough enough that you need a certain card to get to where you need to go, and you might not have that turn right that you need, or whatever it is that completely messes up your game. So it's just an extra bit thinky and crunchy enough that you don't need your opponent to thwart you, because your cards will help you with that. It's tricky and it's tough and it's exciting. So I actually feel, my first instinct reaction when we played it is like, oh my goodness, this is almost essential to play with a 2-player game, because it just adds so much complexity to it that makes it so much more interesting at that smaller player count.
Yeah, the portals, usually the portal maps have walls in them, so that if you don't use the portals, you are going to be driving around for ages while your opponent is moving around. And if you don't have the right cards coming up at the right time, you could find yourself getting washed down the drain easily.
Yeah, and my favorite two maps, one is the big teleporters on top of the void. I love that map, and what's great is, yeah, you have to use those teleporters to move around, and you have to have your cards in your register just right too, so it does make you extra vulnerable to being pushed off if you're close to somebody, but it also makes you vulnerable to avoid not falling off yourself if you don't have the right cards. So it's very tricky and very fun to play. And to add to that, one thing we found, like with the base game, particularly at 2 players, if one of us gets a lead, they're very often going to win as a foregone conclusion because they have a significant lead and you're trailing in them behind them or whichever, and you know how it's going to go down. But that wasn't true with the expansions because it is so tight very often on the different maps, exactly what you need to do, what cards you need in each register, and very often we were thwarted by our own cards. So maybe you had the lead, but then you just have a bad pull, and now somebody else takes the lead. Well, now they have a bad pull, and you take the lead back. So there was so much more variability in that made it extra fun to go through.
Yeah, there is a lot going on these maps.
Yes.
That you have to keep your head above water.
Now, with the base game, you have some pre-created maps in the book that you can play around with at various levels of difficulty. These expansions don't come with any. At first I was a little daunted by that because it was nice to have the preset maps and follow and do exactly what I was told to, but I actually had a lot of fun creating my own maps with them and organizing them just so how to fit them together, where to put your checkpoints, where to put your respawn points. But it is good to know that they do not come with preset maps. You have to make your own with it. And one of the things that I really love about this game in general is there is so much flexibility in play. You can set up a map that takes you 30 minutes and something that you can play with your 9-year-old. Easy peasy. Or you can set up a map that can take you 5 hours or even longer if you wanted to. There's so much variability of play. So whether you want a short game or whether you want a long game, but also if you want it to be easier or if you want it to be really challenging, each time you play, you can customize your game to what you feel like. And I really love that about it.
Okay, with the addition of the 3 extra boards with 1 expansion, you're probably okay. They will fit in the base box with the insert that keeps everything all nice and neatly organized the way I like. But with 2 of them, we found there was not enough room for the 6 extra boards. I had to take that nice insert out and put everything in bags so that all these boards will fit into the box by themselves with the bags and the cards.
Yeah, so that is something to be aware of. But by taking it out, it does add a lot of space. So even for future expansions, it's great because the box is a nice size. There is tons of room as long as that insert is out. Now, between the 2, if you're deciding which expansion to get, I can tell you my favorite one is Chaos and Carnage.
And that is mine as well. The teleporters are my favorite.
It's the teleporters for me too. I love the teleporters. They add so much to the game. The water is cool, and I like that as well. And it's nice to have the ramps and the ledges as well. I really like having the different layers. So I do like both, but if I had to choose one, and if I couldn't get them both, I would go for the Chaos and Carnage for those teleporters. But other than that, I say get both because they're all really great. So bottom line, we really love these expansions. We love this game, and the expansions are a wonderful addition to them. So check it out if you are interested. Do you play Robo Rally? Let us know down in the comments below if this is a game that you enjoy playing. Now, specifically the Renegade Games version, because this is a game, as we mentioned in our previous review, that has been out in various incarnations since the 1970s, and each of them is different. And from what I hear from people in the comments section from our last review and from other conversations online, is this one improves upon a lot of the previous versions. So that is something to keep in mind. So thank you so much for watching our review today.
If you enjoyed this content, please support the channel by subscribing if you haven't already.
And as always, happy gaming, folks. But let's do it all over again. We're going to do all over again now. Now to
The Chaos and Carnage expansion introduces teleporters. God, I can't. Okay. She told me a new thing and the other one right out the ear. Now they're wet. Wild crushers.
You are telepated. Yeah.
Who would do that? That's
Who
crazy.
would do that?